Hi friends, this is the Mrs. Wolfie from our Half Acre Homestead. Today I'm going to make another traditional treat, and hopefully it won't get eaten before Christmas because I'm going to freeze it. I'm going to make raisin nut bread. Alright, and what we need to do that is 8 cups of flour plus a half a cup for rolling. We need 2 cups of your favorite choice. It could be trail mix. Today I'm using yellow sultana raisins, currants, and broken pecans. 3 eggs, 1 cup of sugar, not white sugar, that's organic, but you can use whatever you want, and another half a cup of sugar set aside, 3 tablespoons of cinnamon, a cup and a half of warm, not hot milk. You're going to need 2 tablespoons of butter and a teaspoon of salt, and of course 1 cup of warm water in which you've risen some yeast. Alrighty, let's get to it. First, we're going to set aside the 3 tablespoons of cinnamon and the half a cup of sugar for later, because that's going to be our filling. First, we're going to take our yeast, which is nice and frothy, and we're going to mix that. And I'm going to put this aside because I am going to dump some warm milk in there. And then we're going to add our sugar, our 1 cup of sugar, our 3 eggs. And if my eggs look a funny color, it's because I have crossbreeds, and some of them are Americana crossbreeds. 2 tablespoons of butter, which has been softened, and we're going to start whisking this together. And I should have my electric mixer. Alright, now that we have an electric mixer, we have our yeast, our 1 cup of sugar, our 3 eggs, and our butter. We're going to add the warm milk. Now you don't want it too hot, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use it to rinse the yeast. And this is a cup and a half of warm milk. I'm just going to use it to rinse the rest of that yeast out of there. Now, I would normally, or you're supposed to put this stuff in next, but because it's so chunky, I'm just going to start adding the flour first, and then right near the end I will knead in the raisins and the nuts. Okay, the dough's getting too thick for the beater now, so we're just going to start mixing it with the spoon. We're just going to pour it onto this flour, and then we'll start to mix it by kneading it. Oh, there's some wet stuff there. We'll just make sure we scrape out all the stuff. There we go. Okay. Now this is the time when I would add my fruit and nuts. We're just going to put this in here like this, and we're just going to knead it and mix it right into the dough. And this is almost there. I just don't want to miss any of these nuts and raisins because they're so darn expensive these days. I've curtailed my baking quite a bit this year because it is very expensive, and I'm on a budget. I mean, who isn't these days? Now this recipe is supposed to make 3 loaves, but I have a feeling it's going to all go into one of my big long pans, or one of my big long pans and a small one. Now we got all this kneaded. Now it's not going to knead like traditional bread in the sense that it's going to be smooth and elastic, for the simple reason is you got so many nuts and wonderful goodness in there. And I'm going to put this in a bowl, a greased bowl, and I'll be right back. Now here's my buttered bowl, and I'm just going to pop this in here once, press it, and then I'm going to flip it over, because now we've greased the sides of the dough, and we want that dough to be slightly greased. There we go. There it is. We're going to cover it with a cloth, and we're going to let it rise for a couple of hours, and when it's ready, we'll be back. Okay, as you can see, our dough has risen quite nicely, and we're just going to turn this out onto the board here, and we're just going to roll this out so that it's roughly rectangular in shape. I'm going to make it fairly long because I have 1 long pan and 1 short pan. And I want to get this right. Alrighty. Now, I'm just going to butter my hands here. There is some oil on here, butter on here from the bowl, so that the the sugar and the cinnamon has something to stick to. I'll just get a cloth here and wipe my hands. Alrighty. Now, we are going to take our half a cup of reserve sugar, And we're just going to sprinkle it all over the cinnamon nut bread dough. Alrighty, and then we're going to take our cinnamon and we're just going to do the same. Now, we're just going to kind of make sure this has an even spread. And then I'm going to take my rolling pin and just kind of make sure it's pressed into the dough without being worked into the dough. Now, we're going to begin to roll our bread dough. And we're going to roll this up so that when you cut it, when it's baked, you want to keep it as even as possible. That's why you want your dough as thin as possible. And the rectangular shape helps to keep the bread even with the rolling. There we go. Or rolled evenly or whatever. Okay, so here we have our log of dough. And I have this bread pan and I have this bread pan. And we're going to cut right here. And this one is going to go into the small greased butter pan. And this one, I want to pinch this end.
Hey, watch it.
Just because I don't want the sugar and stuff coming out and sticking to the pan. And then
Easy, I get airsick.
push the edges down
Hey, that tickles.
so that when it does rise, it'll rise more up than out. And there we go. This one, of course, is going to be for dessert. And this one's going in the freezer. Anyway, we're going to cover it again with a cloth. And we're going to let it rise again. And then we're going to bake it. And we'll be back when we're ready for that. Okay, folks, I think this is risen enough to go in the oven. And my oven's wonky. I think I need a new thermostat. So I've only got it set at 275. But if I were you, I would bake it at about 350 for 35 minutes. And we'll see how it goes from there. Alright, we'll be back when this comes out of the oven. Alrighty, the timer's gone off. And our raisin nut bread is about to come out of the oven. And oh my, isn't that lovely? As soon as this cools down, we'll have a piece. Because this one is for us. This one is for the freezer. Well, folks, shall we try a piece? It's still quite hot. And I'll just have a little sliver. Oh, it's still too soft. Oh, look at that. Isn't that lovely? A little bit of butter. Okay, more than a little bit. Merry Christmas. It's very yummy. I hope you can add this holiday treat. This is going to have to be hidden and put in the freezer, or my family won't see it come Christmas morning. This is the Mrs. Wolfie from our half-acre homestead saying, I love holiday baking, don't you?